The start to the new NBA season was unbelievable. We've got Rockets Thunder, double overtime, clutch buckets, a ton of storylines, and the big headline coming into the game was the Rockets playing this gigantic lineup. Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Sengun, and Steven Adams. Depending on how you categorize players, there's not a single guard in that lineup. You got guys that are skilled, but this is just a bunch of size, and they're just going to try and overwhelm you with that. And for the majority of the game, it worked. This was a lineup that was working for Houston. They were in control of the majority of the game. And then the Thunder end up coming back and they end up taking game one on ring night. A couple of things from this game. First, obviously, Oklahoma City, this is not a great matchup for them in general because of the way that the Rockets like to cross the offensive glass. And even though the Thunder are able to pressure them, they weren't pressuring them as much as you would expect. And the Rockets obviously are going to have issues getting into offense at times with this lineup, but they're also going to be able to just get right by you and go to the rim the way that Amen Thompson did a few times in this game. And OKC, without Jalen Williams, is going to be even smaller than they already would be, and in a stylistic matchup that's already kind of an issue for them, it's made that much worse when Jalen Williams isn't out there because he was hurt. The other big takeaway here for Houston is that the one guard-ish player that they did play was Shepard, and he was not very good. It's a tough situation for him because he basically didn't play at all last year, and then he's going into what really feels like a playoff environment all of a sudden in game one. There's no Fred VanVleet, so when Shepard's out there, he's going to be the guy that's on the ball trying to create, trying to organize, and that's just really tough for a second-year guy. And also, he's just going to stick out like a sore thumb on the biggest, most athletic team in the entire league. You've got this 6'1" guy that's just, he's an okay athlete, but he's just not going to compare to, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, all these guys. And it was rough. It was really, really rough. He couldn't do anything on defense. He wasn't making shots. He felt rushed. There were multiple times where Ime Udoka just looked at him and hey, relax, calm down, play slower. And that comes from a guy that didn't play a ton last year. And also, like I said, the environment was crazy. OKC's the best defensive team in the entire league. And it was a very, very rough game one for Shepard. The bigger issue beyond all that for him, though, is he wasn't making shots. And if Shepard isn't going to make shots, he's not going to play. There's no reason to have him out there over Tari Eason, over even someone like Josh Okogie, who got a lot of run in this game. There's no reason for Shepard to be out there over any of those guys if he's not going to be able to organize the offense and he's not going to be able to make shots. And through just game one, it didn't look like he was going to be able to do that at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the middle of the year and Shepard's playing 10, 12 minutes a game, which is crazy because everybody, including me, liked him as a prospect, but it's just game one. But that was definitely a huge takeaway from this game. As we get further on into the game, Oklahoma City starts to kind of crawl their way back. It was a very weird SGA game. He had 11 points well into the fourth quarter, and of course ends up finishing with over 30 as we go into double overtime because that's what SGA does. He's an unbelievable end of game player. The only guy for OKC that was in any kind of rhythm offensively early was Chet, who had this unbelievable first quarter, and I think he had 18 at halftime. I believe he finished with 28, but that's because he hit a couple of buckets late. And then in between all of that, it was just the Thunder were jacking threes. They were trying to get to the line a little bit, but they clearly struggled with this gigantic lineup that the Rockets were putting out there. And it felt like it was going to be this statement win for Houston on ring night in Oklahoma City. But then some of the cracks started to show in what this Houston roster construction is going to look like this season. And as you would expect for Houston in game one with this gigantic lineup, they had some issues towards the end of the game offensively. For whatever reason, Kevin Durant was just not aggressive at all once we got to the fourth quarter. He looked pretty good in the first part of the game, and then fourth quarter and overtime, he just wasn't able to get shots up. There's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, Houston's lack of spacing becomes a gigantic issue here. Sengun, who I can't believe we've gotten this far without talking about Sengun, he was unbelievable, but it's him and Jabari Smith are really the only guys you're worried about making shots. Amen Thompson, you're not that worried about it. Steven Adams, you're not that worried about it. So if you're trying to get Kevin Durant the ball when OKC is fully locked in on defense towards the end of the game, it's really tough to get him the ball in any kind of situation where he's going to have any kind of an advantage, especially if Shepard's not going to be able to play and organize for you and provide any spacing. And that definitely started to show some of the flaws in this gigantic Houston lineup, especially if they're not able to get on the offensive glass and get some easy putbacks. But the bright shining star here for Houston in game one, albeit in a loss, was Alperen Sengun. There was a lot of hype around him coming into the season because of the way he played in some international stuff. He was out of control. He had 4 or 5 threes. All of them were perfect too. Like, I don't think he hit rim on a single three. He was able to attack. They tried to put Caruso on him. OKC did, which is something, of course, they did in the postseason last year with Nikola Jokic, and he was tearing up Alex Caruso. He was crushing it. He was able to get to the rim. He was able to get to the free throw line. Looked like the best player on Houston, which is absolutely massive for them. Like, if he's going to be able to be at that kind of a level, he's not going to be Jokic, but people are going to compare him to Jokic. If he's able to do that for them, the sky is truly the limit for this Rockets team, even without Van Vliet. But unfortunately, the Rockets' offensive issues at the end of these games cost them. SGA ends up hitting a couple of buckets. We go to overtime and then double overtime. And then before we even get to double overtime, we've got the Kevin Durant fake timeout. We had a Chris Webber. It happened, and the refs just didn't see it. Like, KD got a rebound with a second, maybe a second and a half left, right in front of the official, tries to call a timeout that Houston doesn't have at the end of the first overtime, and that should be a technical foul. It's a tie game. OKC should get free throws to potentially win the game, and the refs just don't see it, which is weird, by the way, because KD's not the only one calling a timeout. Basically, everybody on the floor is calling a timeout. Alperen Sengun then yells at Kevin Durant, wait, we don't have one, we don't have one. I don't understand how the refs didn't see anyone calling this timeout. They basically, I guess, are not able to review this. You have to call it in live play. They never gave him a timeout. We went to double overtime. Oklahoma City ends up winning anyway, but the fact that in game one, we almost had a Chris Webber 2.0 is unbelievable. What a crazy, crazy start to the season in just game one. Game two, Warriors-Lakers. The Warriors were pretty much in control of this one from start to finish. You saw all of the really good Jimmy Butler stuff. You saw all the reasons why the Warriors were so good once they added Jimmy Butler later in the year last year. And for the Lakers, the big headline was everybody hates DeAndre Ayton. Already. It already is not working. There's a reason that the Suns wanted to get rid of him. There's a reason that the Trailblazers had him under contract for $30-something million and said, just kidding, bye, go away. We'd rather have Donovan Clingan and Jan Hansen as our center rotation this year. DeAndre Ayton is a good NBA player. Like, he does things well. He has good touch in the paint. He can hit an occasional mid-range jump shot. He's got really good hands, but he is just a frustrating player to play with because at times he's going to be super not physical at the rim. He's going to leave these little 4-foot bunnies short at the rim. He's almost never going to get to the free throw line. And defensively, he's just kind of out there. And for a Lakers team that is really relying on DeAndre Ayton to be something at the 5 for them this year, it was a very concerning game one. What was not concerning for the Lakers was Luka. Luka looked unbelievable. Big headline, of course, coming into the season is skinny Luka. What is he going to look like? He's in better shape. No LeBron in this game. And him and Austin Reeves were kind of cooking. That two-man game was working. They were able to work both sides of the floor. And even with Ayton not playing well, Luka was able to do whatever he wanted to against a Warriors team that last year, once they added Jimmy Butler, was one of the best defensive teams in the entire league. So a very encouraging sign on the Luka front for the Lakers, and not encouraging at all at the center spot, a spot that they have been trying to fix, of course, since they traded away Anthony Davis. For the Warriors, this was never really going to be some gigantic test for them. It's the Lakers without LeBron. They know that they're good with Jimmy Butler. The test for them is, can they stay healthy the entire year? Can they get through the 82 games to get to the 16 games? Because if they are above the play-in tournament, if they're 6 and better in the West, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, Steph, they have a bunch of guys that if they're healthy are really, really tough to deal with in a postseason series. And if they're able to find some depth, like if Big Al is good for them throughout the year, the rookie from Florida looks really good. If they're able to find that kind of depth throughout the season to get them to the postseason, we could be hearing from the Golden State Warriors. Only 2 games on night one. Now we're getting into, I think, 11 or 12 games tonight, but a super fun night one in the NBA.